Ja Morant has been suspended indefinitely. Hey guys, my name is Manu Kamia, and before I jump into this video, I just want to ask you guys to give me the HBO special. That is the Help a Brother Out, and you can do that by hitting the subscribe button and leaving a like underneath this video. I don't like long intros, so let's jump back into the story. Not even 2 days after I made my last Ja Morant video about how he was accused of beating up a 17-year-old, Ja Morant decides to make headlines again for something that's terrible. So recently, over the weekend, Ja Morant shook the NBA world when he made headlines because he got suspended. Now, he got suspended because on Friday, after the Memphis Grizzlies played the Denver Nuggets, Ja Morant went to a local strip club in Denver at 5 a.m. Now, that's fine. I'm not one to do that, but that to each his own. But at this strip club, Ja Morant decided to go live on Instagram. Now, there's a recipe for disaster. Being at a strip club and then going on live and recording it probably isn't the best look for an NBA player to begin with, but that wasn't the worst thing that he did. On this live, he decided to brandish a gun and started flaunting it while he was singing to NBA Youngboy. The next morning, it made news headlines, and Ja Morant got a swift suspension from his team, the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, although the Memphis Grizzlies suspended him, the NBA launched and is currently doing its own investigation into this incident, and they're going to come up with their own verdict and come up with their own punishment. More on that later. Now, Ja took down the video after he realized what he had done the next morning, that this was a terrible thing to do, but everybody had already recorded it, and it's all over the internet, and everybody's already given their 2 cents on it. Regardless, Ja Morant decided to give an apology, which I do appreciate. I appreciate that Ja Morant realized what he did was wrong. Like, that is good, because there's another way he could have taken. He could have been like, oh, everybody's just out to get me, da-da-da-da, but he took responsibility. He issued a statement, and this is what he had to say in a statement. A statement from Ja Morant. I take full responsibility for my actions last night. I'm sorry to my family, teammates, coaches, fans, partners, the city of Memphis, and the entire Grizzlies organization for letting you down. I'm going to take some time away and get help on working and learning better methods of dealing with stress and overall well-being. Now, that's good, and what's also good for Ja Morant is that Nike decided they were going to side with him. They're not going to try and release him or drop him because they've been in partnership with each other for a very short time. So Nike still thinks the relationship is salvageable and his image is still salvageable, and they could still sell some sneakers together. So Nike decided to release a statement on the issue, and this is what they had to say. Nike's statement on Ja Morant. We appreciate Ja's accountability and that he is taking the time to get the help he needs. We support his prioritization of his well-being. Now again, that's great for Ja Morant. His endorsements aren't dropping him because that's half of his income. But this comes just days after Ja Morant was in the news because he was accused of allegedly pulling a gun on a 17-year-old after beating him up. So regardless of if Nike lets this slide now, this just doesn't look good for Ja Morant currently. It doesn't look good for his brand at all. Because back to the NBA. You know how I said the NBA is conducting an investigation independent of the Memphis Grizzlies and are going to come down with their own verdict? Well, in the collective bargaining agreement that the NBA has with the NBA Players Association, it is stated in there that if there's a gun, if a player has a gun on NBA premises, including a plane, it is an automatic 50-game suspension. And so the reports are that the NBA is investigating how the gun got to Denver. Was the plane on the Memphis Grizzlies plane to Denver? Because if so, that's an automatic 50-game suspension for Ja Morant. And that's what's going on right now. And Ja Morant is in hot waters, because if he gets a 50-game suspension from the NBA, not only is he going to lose out on money, he will miss the rest of this season. He will miss all of the playoffs, because right now the Memphis Grizzlies have 16 games remaining in a regular season, and there are a total of 28 possible games in the playoffs in total. That's a total of 47 games that the Memphis Grizzlies can play this year until the next season. So if Ja Morant gets a 50-game suspension, how is he going to explain that to his teammates? How is he going to explain to his teammates that he let them down? He's going to have to explain to the city of Memphis that he let them down, because he would have screwed up messed up and threw away their season because they're counting on Morant. He's their best player, right? He's their best player. How is Morant going to go to the games in the playoffs, watch his team lose in the playoffs, and think to himself, it's because of me. I let my team down because I was stupid enough to go brandish a gun on Instagram Live because I flew with a gun to a city that I didn't need to have. Morant had no reason to have a gun on him in Denver. That boy could pay for security all day long. That is the major thing here. Yes, he's been suspended indefinitely, but what's coming down the pipeline could be even worse. It's looking really, really bad for Morant because a 50-game suspension goes into next year, and he would really, really have to look himself in the mirror and ask himself, was it all worth it? You threw away a perfect season. You threw away a good season, a contender season. Last year, the Memphis Grizzlies came up short against the Golden State Warriors. This year, the Memphis Grizzlies are one of the best teams in the NBA. And if Morant suspended 50 games, you know what he's going to look like? He's going to look like an idiot because of those comments he made in December when he said that he's not worried about anybody in the Western Conference because he's already thinking about the NBA Finals and that he's only worried about the Boston Celtics. He looks really dumb because they won't even make it past us the first round. And so, like I said last week, Morant has to really smarten up because he's jeopardizing everything he's ever worked for. He's jeopardizing everything he's ever sacrificed for to be here, to have the Nike shoe deal, to be the face of Powerade. He has people depending on him. And furthermore, he has people, everyone and their grandmothers telling Morant to smarten up everywhere he goes. And he won't listen. And I've heard reports that it's way worse. Whatever's going on with Morant is way worse than what we're actually seeing. Apparently, he really does actually think he is some sort of gang member. Because it's not a coincidence that last year he beat up a 17-year-old and there was a gun involved. Then the Indiana Pacers gun incident. Then now this. Apparently, it's actually really bad. And you would think with Morant growing up in a two-parent household that he would have one of those two parents, preferably his father, come and tell him, listen, boy, you need to smarten up because you're looking like an idiot out there. But how are his parents supposed to correct him when he's become effectively the breadwinner of his family? He brings money to the family. And Morant's dad, T. Morant, has effectively become his homie, his buddy, rather than his father. You see him courtside with the shades on, acting like a young man, got the chains on, and he's also been acting immature. He is complacent in Morant's trash talking with the fans. He tried to fight Shannon Sharpe. So one has to ask themselves, how is Morant supposed to get proper guidance now when his two parents seem to be as immature almost as he is? Because his mom is calling him to finish line at the mall to get into an altercation with the finish line employee, allegedly. And that's getting him in trouble. That's where the incident with the security guard comes from. And then his dad is trying to fight people courtside at the Lakers game. That's very immature. So you think about it, you think, well, wow, if that's the parenting he came up from, I can kind of see where he's coming from. Parents seem to be as immature and complacent in his bad behavior. And also, they might be scared to try and tell Morant to calm down and chill out. Why? Because they may be scared that he's just gonna cut them off financially, or just cut them off from his life, or their relationship with him is gonna become tenuous. But regardless, Morant has to smarten up. I like his statement. Let's hope he follows through on it. Let's hope he cleans up his act for his own sake, for his own career's sake, because he's jeopardizing everything he's ever worked for. There are a million hoopers that would literally kill to be where Morant is. There's a handful of players that have ever gotten their own shoe from Nike, and he's one of them. And he's squandering this bag away in the most egregious fashion ever, and in broad daylight for everyone to see. But yes, guys, those are just my thoughts on a Morant incident. If you like this kind of content, make sure to hit the subscribe button and leave a like. And until next time, kids.